on. So, first of all, is 18 Grand Slam titles, which is, we're talking about all the, Federer getting to 20 now, and Nadal doesn't even have that.
Yeah.
So, winning everything and all surfaces, which is unreal. And also 157 titles.
Correct.
Which is, also amazing. On the men's side, you have the top guy is 104.
Right.
Federer hasn't reached that number, not Nadal. So, how do you motivate yourself to have such a time span and being so competitive for so long and winning so much? What drove you to get to that level?
I think I was hungry. I think that it's all inside. It's how much you want it. Mm-hmm. And I think I was basically mentally tough, and I was born with a consistency level. I didn't have a lot of highs and a lot of lows. I was always very consistent, but I had the ability to, when I won a match, I would forget about that and go on to the next day. Or when I won a tournament, I would forget about that tournament and go on to the next week. So I could forget. I think champions sort of have amnesia. They don't really celebrate their wins. They go on to the next day or the next week. And I think it's a state of mind. You want to be consistent. You want to win every match. And I was lucky. I didn't have the physical attributes, the natural athleticism and strength of a lot of players. But I think I made up for it in really the focus and the concentration.
So you say, you actually answered quite a few of the questions I was going to ask you right now, because it's good. So what you're saying then, that your mind played a
big role.
A big role.
I think champions, the difference between great players is the mind. And I think when you look at Serena, when you look at Steffi Graf, and you look at Monica and myself and Martina, I think that we had that desire to want to win, and that heart that wanted to win, and we would do anything to win. We would get off the court all bloody and clay on our clothes, and even when we were playing badly, we found a way to win. And that's all up here. That's not giving up. That's believing in yourself. And I think that characteristic separates the great players from the champions.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. But there's one more thing. You said something about getting all dirty on clay.
Yeah.
And we're talking Paris, Roland Garros happening.
Yes.
And you have the longest streak on clay ever. So
there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. I actually think what Rafa Nadal is doing now is even better than what I did, even though my numbers are better, winning 125 matches in a row, because when I came on the scene in the 70s, there were two types of players. There were serve volleyers and there were clay court players. And most of the top players, because the Grand Slams, 3 of them were on grass. Most of the top players, Billie Jean, Margaret Court, Rosie Casals, Virginia Wade, all the top players served and volleyed and really didn't have great ground strokes. And I was born with great ground strokes because I was raised on clay. So that was my style. So my style, playing a serve and volleyer on clay, wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
And it was my generation, the generation after the Billie Jean Kings, the Margaret Courts, when it started coming around with Yvonne and Sue Barker and Hanna Menlikova, Martina. That generation learned to play better on clay. But when a lot of those tournaments were won against, again, women who were not clay court players. Nowadays, all the top players are excellent on every surface. So it would be a lot tougher in this day and age to duplicate what I did in the 70s because of that.
And that goes to the point that now you think today you have the courts and the surfaces are much more level, right?
They are.
And contrary to what you're saying, actually playing on grass nowadays is easier than it used to be. I know I experienced myself, and way before you couldn't basically play from the back. It's very tough.
It was all about serve and volley on grass,
yeah.
And that's why it was. I count winning Wimbledon 3 times, 3 of my biggest achievements, because I was a baseliner winning on grass.
Right.
Nowadays, the grass courts are harder. They play more like a hard court. And nowadays, the clay courts are faster with the balls, with the clay, with the equipment, so they play very fast. So it's really an equalizer. And if you look, there aren't specialized players anymore. They're all great on every surface.
Yeah, that was my next point. So now you don't have the specialized, but
Right.
the pattern of play has to be more leveled. I mean, especially on the guys, everybody plays more or less the same game, you know, very strong from the baseline, very seldom coming to the net. On the women's side, what do you think can make a difference for someone to stand out?
On the clay or on any surface?
On any surface, yeah.
You have to have power.
Right.
And you have to have that one big shot. And I think having a big serve, you know, you're winning free points. That's how Serena, you know, she has a big serve. I think you have to have power and a big shot, and I think you have to move well, obviously. You have to have it all.
Right.
You have to have the whole package of being a great athlete, and then you have to have the mind. You have to not fear pressure. You have to play well under pressure, the mental part.
And what do you think about the spread of the tournaments now? How the schedule is made, time off that the players get? What do you think that's done?
It's tough. I love the extra week before the French in Wimbledon. I think we were fighting for that in our day, just to get those 3 weeks so you can practice more on the grass. And I think the players are playing better on the grass as a result. The schedule is so tough. I mean, because it used to be primarily in the United States, and now it's the world. You know, it's global. Every country wants to have their own tournament. Every country wants to see the top players. It's very hard. You know, but at the same time, there are injuries. But at the same time, the players are also playing well into their 30s. So I think we're doing something right with the schedule.
Right, and quiet players being able to go above 30, you know, 35, and what the reason is the combination of being better fit, more physios around, the condition in the calendar. You think that combination makes it?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, in our day, there wasn't the money to have 5 people around us, you know, and nowadays they have 5 people. They have a physio, they have a massage therapist, they have a fitness trainer, you know, they have a psychologist, you know, and that I think can prolong careers. Also, I think when you get to a point where you're 34, 35, like Roger and Serena are doing, you don't have to play the full commitment. You don't have to play a full calendar year. You can pick and choose, and they deserve it. You know, you can pick and choose your tournaments a little bit more, and that's going to preserve your body too.
Getting a little bit to the beginning of your tennis career. Now, being a tennis player, I always say that being a tennis player is like, tennis is a way of life, you know. The family gets involved. I have in my own family, you know.
Yeah.
My mom is 85. She plays tennis up until today.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's something that involves everything. I know you had a very good relationship and close to your dad.
Yeah.
And then I want to evolve that, the relationship. How do you think the relationship for parents to have a relation in sense of how much do they get involved?
Right.
And the triangle of father, mother, family, coaches, and the player. How do you see that?
I was different because my dad was a player on the tour, and he played the tour. And he was a coach, also a tennis professional and a coach. So he was my coach, and he coached all 5 of the kids in our family. But all 5 of the kids were national champions. I mean, we were all successful. And my mom kind of stayed in the background. My mom was a mom. She was there when we lost, to comfort us. She was there, you know, cooking the meals, washing our clothes. I mean, she was just as important, but in a different way. But so my dad was my coach, and that's a very tricky situation, because you've seen a lot of coach-father relationships not work, but some have worked. Mine worked. Caroline Wozniacki and her father Peter, that works. There's a lot that work. But if the parents don't know much about tennis, they should they should be parents, and they should give love and support and not put pressure on their kids, and let the coach be the one that's tough, and let the coach be the one that teaches them. And I've always said that, you know, there has to be a separation there.
And taking that subject, you have an academy who's been successful for so many years. That plays a part in the academy. How does that tie into the strategy of what you put to the coaches, how you involve the parents?
Yes.
How does that?
Well, the parents aren't allowed on the courts, first of all, to coach. I mean, we have the coaches spend time with the kids. The parents can watch from afar up in the balcony, or they can watch, and the coaches can. I mean, the parents have communication with the coaches, and they can talk to them. After the practice, this is what I saw. What do you think about this? We welcome input from parents, but when they're on the court, it's all about the coaches. And we encourage the parents to just really support their kids and not put pressure on them, because the kids feel enough pressure they put enough pressure on themselves, and let the coach be the voice. But we encourage communication between parents and coach. We want to be inclusive with the family.
Yeah, and you said one thing was interesting, pressure. If someone has dealt with pressure, I'm sure it's you. Winning so early at 16, you're already, in the limelight of the whole world. What helps you to deal with this pressure?
I didn't feel pressure in the beginning. I mean, I felt pressure in the juniors when I had to play girls my own age. That's when I felt pressure, when I played my peers. But I started playing tournaments. My first tournament, women's tournament, I was 13. And I reached the semifinals of it. And when I was playing 13, 14, 15, 16 as a teenager, women's tournaments, remember I was playing 30-year-olds. And I didn't feel pressure. I just felt like I have time on my side, and they don't. They were the ones feeling the pressure. So when you're young, you don't feel pressure. But at the end of my career, when I was playing Steffi and Monica and players that were 10, 15 years younger, the shoe was on the other foot, and then I started feeling pressure.
Yeah.
But I learned at a young age, pressure is only what you put on yourself.
This is a great statement, because I also believe that
it's your story in your head.
Right.
And forget about everybody else. When you walk on the court, center court at US Open, and there's 20,000 people, you shouldn't feel pressure because they're watching, because they're there for entertainment. They're going to go home and forget about you and eat dinner, and you're not in their life. Okay? So pressure is only what you put on yourself when you walk out on the court.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. When do you think it's a lot of families have a decision to make, and because all the kids have dreams, everybody wants to be a number one player in the world, everyone wants to be like you, or Federer, and you have to keep that dream alive, but you also, as a parent,
have to be realistic.
Exactly, you have to be realistic. What do you think about, keeping that flame going, but at the same time having a B plan, what do you think about the career when you start really getting everything aside to just play tennis?
Yeah.
When you go study by side, college?
Yeah.
How do you see that equation? Because that's also something that all the parents are looking for the right answer. I know it's very unique for each one, but having a view from someone like you, not that you're going to give us the recipe.
It's hard, yeah, because there's so many aspiring tennis players out there that want to be a pro. But I think really by the time you're like 16, I think if you're one of the best juniors in your country, if you're starting to play ITF, starting to play women's tournaments at a lower 10,000s, 25,000s, I think you sort of have an instinct as to if you're going to be on the tour or not. Worst case scenario, which is a great thing, is you get a great scholarship to college and you play tennis in college, and after a year or two, if you feel like you want to go on the tour, you go on the tour. I love that college is available, and education is very, very important. But really, if you're ranked 1,000 in the world and you're 17 or 18, I would go to college. If you're ranked 150 or 200 in the world, you've got a shot to make the top 100, then you turn pro. I think by that time you kind of know, ranking-wise and ability-wise, where you are, and you have to be realistic. Right. But again, if you go to college, you can always turn back. It's harder to be a pro and turn back and go to college.
Right. Especially nowadays, the colleges, they give you great support.
It's a team thing. It's fun. It's good competition. It's great coaching. It's a good stepping stone to be on the tour.
Great. Well, I think that's it. Thanks for your time, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.